My biggest fear would be when the first comes and I don't get the rent.
I found that my tenant had dumped concrete down my toilet. Can you believe Fair Housing fined me $5,000 for that?
And how do you onboard your tenants? What do you do?
I don't even know if I do it right.
If you're a landlord, don't just rent, rent perfect. The Rent Perfect podcast with property expert and private investigator, David Pickron.
Well, here we are, another episode of the Rent Perfect podcast. David Pickron here, joined by my usual co-host.
Happy to be here.
Scott Aubrey.
So good.
How you doing, Scotty?
Doing amazing, thank you.
Awesome. It's chilling out a little bit outside for us, starting to have to put on a few layers in Arizona.
Yep.
You know, our friends up north would come down here. They'd still have, like, tank tops on.
Shorts,
and,
flip-flops,
Here we are, turning the heaters on when it's 68
I wore long
degrees.
pants today, and that's how cold it was.
That is awesome. Hey, like us, subscribe to us. We certainly appreciate your comments and your feedback for sure. It really gives us ideas on future episodes. I want to talk about onboarding today. You know, we're always talking about doing criminal background checks or doing credit checks. But isn't it interesting where, as a seasoned landlord, you can kind of tell where your relationship is going long before you even get to asking
the particulars, right? Yeah.
For to get the final application. And what I mean by that is I love as an investigator, just by heart, and I hope that those watching really see themselves as a property investigator, as a landlord investigator, because that's really what we are. We need to investigate to make the best decision, right?
Yep.
But I always love when I ask questions and I just get a deer in the headlights kind of look, I mean, I know you watch a lot of like cop TV.
Yeah,
right?
I love cop TV.
And so I know you probably have some story locked away where like a police officer shows up to a car.
So anybody who's ever watched any kind of police programming, right? And this is like reality TV police stuff. But I'm always amazed that when the officer pulls the person over and they come up and they license and registration and they start getting pushback just on that, right? And then, then it escalates to, hey, can I look in the backseat of the car? And the driver becomes evasive and they become defensive. And it's like, well, do you have a warrant? The officer's, no, I don't have a warrant. I'm going to look in the no, so all of a sudden that driver, by behavior, has said, red flags, I'm guilty of something, officer. And I'm like, as I watch this, I'm like, this never ends well, right? I've been pulled over really only a handful of times in 50 years, right?
Yeah.
Just a handful of times, okay? And I've never, if the officer says, hey, can I look in the trunk? I'm like, have at it. I probably got a set of golf clubs back there or something, right? But I know because I'm not guilty, because I don't have anything there, I'm not defensive. I'm not trying to be evasive and be like, I don't want you to look at that. And I think when we translate that same behavior into us onboarding tenants, right, we start asking questions. And just by looking at behavior sometimes, we sense our antennas are tingling going, this doesn't feel right.
Right. Now, I see this sometimes after I show my property. They say, hey, I'm interested. I kind of go over the criteria. And this is kind of, once the criteria is presented, this is where I see a lot of the delays in responses or the conversation kind of went from jovial to kind of calms down, and I'm kind of reading these people as I'm going through, how I feel about criminal history, how I feel about smoking, evictions, or whatever. I kind of am just watching demeanor before I even know anything. And then I'll say, hey, when you get a chance, click on that link and go ahead and apply. It was nice meeting you. Have a great day. I know if an hour or 2 or 3 goes by, I know there was something I said in that criteria where they're thinking, do I waste my $50 application fee when he has told me that I will not qualify based on this which I have?
Right.
And so I start to see a different type of communication going on with my applicant than the person who only has the golf clubs in the back of the trunk, right? That person is great. I'll get on it. They're usually letting me know, hey, I have to work until 4, but right at 4, I'll start my application at 4:15. And you can just tell by the conversation back and forth already the direction that you're going to head, right?
Yeah. And we kind of talk about like innocent until proven guilty. And sometimes in these interactions, we might sense guilty until proven innocent. And sometimes it might be like they're just evasive because they've looked at 3 other properties that day.
Right.
But usually smoke is fire. Smoke indicates fire, and we've kind of weed those things out. So.
And I don't want to really say that my constitutional rental home constitution is you're guilty until proven innocent, because sometimes we tag guilty with criminal history.
Right, yeah.
But I think I'm going to say you're not approved until you're approved.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that you start out approved and then I start finding things on you and then unapprove you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, we are kind of guilty until proven innocent in this process.
Right.
And
those are harsh words. You're right. I mean, it might be better to say you're not approved until you're approved. You prove to me that you're, I don't walk into the Mercedes dealership and say, I'd like the AMG 100, or the Maybach, and just give me the keys. They're like, no, time out. We're gonna go through your financials and see, can you afford that or not? Right. Now, then they'll approve me.
Because when you're applying for a car or my rental, the burden of proof is on you.
Right.
To give me what I need. Really, all I'm doing is I'm verifying everything that you're giving me is valid. That's really, I'm not really even like seeing much other than tell me your story. Let me just validate it. And if it passes my criteria, you're now approved. I think the federal government would love it the other way, though. I think they would love first guy who calls you, says, I want your place, is approved. And they want us to skip this process, and we just can't do that. I mean, it makes no sense for us to do that at all. And so I would tell people, as you're going through this application process, you're going to go through and you're going to get their credit and criminal and all this stuff. But don't be hesitant to ask those questions, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I need 6 months or a year's worth of bank statements. And if you just get this look back, like...
well, when husband and wife start talking like it's a Senate hearing, and like, like trying to counsel each other, like, we can't provide that to you. Yeah. Now I know. Right?
Yeah. So I remember a while ago, I asked for bank statements from someone, and I got back screenshots. I was like, no. I need bank statements. And then there's like Venmo screenshot, and I could just tell you didn't want to give me what I was asking for. And eventually I moved on to some other applicant. But just look for those little telltale signs. It either flows and works and makes sense, or you're constantly battling. If you're constantly battling, you just might find that they won't pass your criteria. One more thing is going over that criteria at showing, I think, is so important, because that really is what starts all of this, right? It's all good and fun until you lay down the rules and you look at them and you say, now, can you pass this? And that's when you see people start to either say, yeah, no problem, or they start asking questions. Right. I would never ask you, for example, do you check criminal history outside of, this state? Yeah. Like, I have no criminal history, so I don't care where you check. You can check the whole world. But if I have a criminal history and it's on my mind, I'm going to start asking questions. I'm going to start being a little bit evasive. So we're just telling you, hey, watch for that. We're coming into an economy where we're seeing more criminal history. We're seeing more evictions. Our rental pool out there isn't as strong as it was prior to COVID. So we need all the help we can get, and keep your eye out for it. And until next time, continue to rent perfect.